Hey besties, I hope you are well, or as well as you possibly can be. It's your girl, Jasmine. I never know how to start anything, my God. It is me, and I am just tuning in. Hi, hello, thank you for joining. Good morning, if it's morning where you are. It should be, right? It's okay, whatever. Anyway. I'm just hopping on very quickly to talk a little bit about Mars moving into Aquarius alongside Saturn. Venus is passing through as well. And so this is an energy shift that we're definitely going to feel. I'm not going to go on for too long. I always say that as I ramble for 4 hours, but I do want to just give a little bit of an update on what this energetic shift is going to feel like, what it's probably already feeling like, and how we can work alongside it. Because the thing about it is that Mars, obviously being the planet that kind of rules and governs our divine masculine, is a planet that we feel, it's an inner planet. It's a planet that we feel very viscerally when it comes to how we show up in our relationships, when it comes to how we show up in our work, in our drive, in our sex drive, in our creative drive. So having it shift, thank God, from Capricorn to Aquarius is going to be just a huge... it's going to be something that we very physically feel. Thank you guys for joining. It's so happy. You're in Fort Myers. I'm going to give you a little call, darling. But yes, okay, so it's a shift that we're definitely going to feel. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what it is that we're feeling and how we can work alongside it. So of course, like I said, Mars rules our drive. It rules our work drive, our sex drive, how we're showing up. And so Capricorn was a really, there was something a bit rigid about it. And it was something that was helping us, right? Because it was kind of putting structure to our plans, sometimes to the point of our own detriment, because whenever we're working, hi, hello, thank you for joining. Sometimes when we're working with Capricorn energy, we can be a bit self-deprecating because we have an idea of perfection, it being Saturn ruled, that we don't allow ourselves to be fluid with. But when it comes back to Aquarius, honey, there's an expansiveness that we're going to get to play with. And so the first thing that I want to say is to release any self-imposed limitations or limiting beliefs when it comes to your creative process and what you're going to be creating and doing when you are in that fertile state, right? Because Mars is our action, it's our drive, it's where we do. And so when it comes to what you are doing and what you think you've been put on this earth in this incarnation to do, Aquarius is really going to show us where have you been putting limiting beliefs surrounding how large, how expansive, and with it being in the sign of Aquarius, how innovative you can be with what you are doing. Like, have you been abiding by rules and structures that are outdated, or the safe way to do it, the way that other people have done it, or can you expand the way that you are doing what you are doing? Sorry, my dog just walked in a way that it is new and transformative. And so the thing about it is that Mars is not the only one that is in Aquarius. We have Saturn there as well. And so when Saturn is showing up in this way, there is an element of, and you know what, the tea about it is, and I wrote this down because this is so important, March 22 is going to feel a lot like April 2020. And the reason being is that was the last time we had Saturn and Mars sort of meet up here. So there is this element of reflecting on where we were at that time period and kind of seeing how similar themes are coming up now. And mind you, that's very triggering, right? That was the beginning of the pandemic. That was kind of a shift in us retreating to a point of isolation. But I do want to say that now is the time to work with that to our benefit. And so if you're feeling at all like I kind of need to step back, isolate a bit, and take some time to be alone within my creative process, now is a beautiful time to work with that, because it is in the stepping back that you get to kind of refine and look at the bigger picture. Because when we're working with Saturn is going to kind of call us to answer to the consequences of how we're showing up for ourselves. And Saturn is going to call us to be responsible with what are the consequences of how you're showing up for yourself, how you're showing up in your relationships, how much effort you are putting into your creative endeavors. Are you actually showing up in a way that is going to alchemize and produce the results that you want? And if not, how are you going to recommit? It's all about recommitting, but in a way that is innovative and larger than you've given yourself permission to see. I hope that this makes sense. I honestly, as I hopped on today, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make a lot of sense, but it's they're bigger themes to make digestible. So yes, free yourself from any self-imposed limitations when it comes to what you can create. Use Saturn and Mars working in these signs to really just, in the most helpful way possible, bring responsibility to how you are showing up to your dreams, to your actions. And Mars also rules our sex drive. So if there's any newness that you want to breathe into who you are in your partnerships, in like your sexual identity. Now is the time to also kind of be explorative in that place as well. And so as someone who has a natal Mars in Aquarius, which sometimes works to my detriment, but sometimes is great. And this is where I want to bring up it's great. There is an innate ability that I have to observe my emotions and detach from my emotions. And that's a feeling that we're all going to kind of collectively be under right now. So if there's been anything in your life that's kind of been like emotionally tumultuous, or if you felt kind of like, I can't stop thinking about this thing, or I'm so emotionally invested in this thing, I'm responding to this thing emotionally, there's this heaviness surrounding this thing. Right now, we're really going to be under the influence, right? And Mars is going to be in Aquarius from March 6th to April 14th. But this is going to activate something for much longer. I'll get into that. But the point is that now is going to be a beautiful opportunity to work with detaching from what has been emotionally weighing you down and practice the art of detachment when it comes to observing it, when it comes to responding to it, dancing outside of it, processing it and letting it move through you rather than drowning in the experience of it. So practice detachment not only from your own emotions and not in a way that like not in a form of escapism or bypassing, but rather in a way where you don't make decisions from any sort of like emotional space, but rather from a logical space that takes into account where your emotions are. And you also want to practice detachment when it comes to your relationships. And what's at the forefront right now is friendships. Aquarius is a sign that rules friendships, right? If there's any time to bask in the glory of community and platonic relationships and to be aware of the nectar that comes from relationships that are platonic and friendship based and community based rather than like romantic, now is the time to do that. But yeah, detach from your friendships. If you find that you are expecting too much of your friendships or not, or even not showing up enough for your friendships, really just taking this time to pause and look at who is in your life on a platonic level. What is your community? Aquarius is all about community. So you want to come back to a space where you're not only being innovative with your ideas and isolating in order to refine the bigger picture, but ultimately to allow yourself to be collaborative. If you have any issues struggling with allowing collaboration into your life, look at why that is. But ultimately it's like, what is my community? Who is my community? What role am I playing within community? And if you don't know that, take the time to step away and figure it out so that you can reintegrate into your community and into your friendships and relationships from a space that is more intentional. I hope that makes sense. So yes, healthy detachment, free yourself from self-imposed limitations, explore new identities, new versions of yourself, and especially who you are sexually. Like I said, Aquarius is this airborne sign that is all about what doesn't fit into rigid structure. So you really want to make sure that you're utilizing this time to be innovative, not only with how you're showing up in your work and your creative process, but also just like, who are you? And have you molded who you are to be to fit something that is safe, that is digestible, that is palatable? And how can you be more expansive with how you show up in the world, whether it's sexually, whether it's creatively, just who you are in general? It's a time to be intentional about friendships and your role within community. Breathe new life into the ideas you have now. How can you get more innovative and collaborative? And where can you marry action with dreaming, right? Because Aquarius, like I said, is this air sign that's so boundless. But we have Saturn meeting us here, which is not only going to ask us to, like I said, react to the responsibility and the consequences of our actions, right? It's like we can't, desire an empire and then kind of sit and wait for its arrival, right? We have to marry those dreams with action. And so Saturn is going to show us where we're not showing up for ourselves, where we're not showing up for what we're calling in. So, definitely be intentional about where am I showing up, and if showing up is meeting me back with resistance, am I showing up from an authentic place, or am I showing up for a reason that is bigger than myself, right? Because Aquarius is all about the collective. So am I showing up for a reason that is more than just to appease and satisfy myself, right? Ego. Or am I showing up for something that, yes, gives me pleasure and fulfillment, but ultimately is for a larger scheme? Claim your identity versus sitting with the identity given to you and sitting with the identity that others can chew on a bit easier. That's T. And you have to answer to Saturn. So taking responsibility for your actions, accountability, and the burden of consequences. And like I said, and I really want to highlight and drive this, March 22 is going to feel similar to April 2020, which, like I said, was sort of like in the beginning of us experiencing isolation that was a bit forced. Now I think it's going to be kind of like a voluntary dance with isolation, not to the point where we are not experiencing community, because like I said, this is so important when it comes to building a healthy dialogue and relationship and identity within community. But ultimately, when it comes to showing up to your dreams and showing up to what it is that you want to create in this world, who you want to be in your divine masculine, it is important that you are limiting any distraction, especially online distraction. Being really intentional with what you're paying attention to and what you're driving your energy into, which can inevitably mean limiting distraction and kind of coming back to a place of solitude so you can refine that bigger picture, so you can get more acquainted with who I am when I allow myself to explore out of my own colored lines. And use this time period of, because like if you know any Aquarius in your life, you know that they are someone who, if anything, thrives in their own company. And so now it's important to use the basking of your own company in order to inform you about who am I when I am no longer playing a role? Who am I when I am no longer appeasing an identity that I thought was safe, that I thought I should stand in? Who am I when I am limitless and boundless with my self-expression, with my creative expression, with my sexual expression? And how can I explore this and stand in this so that I can show up to community and in community in a collaborative and authentic way? Quarantine shopping. Yeah, I'm kind of excited. I mean, I've kind of been on an isolative space, but like there's a really beautiful, there's a nectar to be taken from spending time with limited distraction and stimulation to kind of like hear yourself a bit clearly. And if those lines become blurred between who I am when I'm performative versus who I am in my authentic and boundless state, now is the time to refine that, because the doing, right, the things that we create and process and produce into the world should be bred from our being, right? It's not about like, what am I going to do? It's who am I and how is the essence of who I am going to produce beautiful things? And so before we get into the production, we kind of have to be very clear and aware of like who we are when we are no longer playing a role, when we're no longer limiting our identity. And Aquarius is really going to expand our viewship, expand the way that we see the fullest potential of ourselves. Hope that makes sense. I'm going to be thinking about this all day now. Yeah, it's giving existential crisis. Venus is also moving through Aquarius, so right, Saturn and Mars is very much like, what am I doing with my energy? How am I showing up in the world in a way that's authentic? And but Venus is also like, but like, let's dance a little bit. So like Venus is going to soften the blow a little bit in terms of like, there's something so like this liminal space between who you were and who you were allowing yourself to become can be scary, but also like the most creative and expansive place, because now you get to explore different identities. You get to explore different versions of yourself. I've always known that I was queer, but I like downloaded it. I've been off of dating apps for a while now, but I re-downloaded Hinge last night and I was like, only women, I'm sorry. Like I need to allow myself to bask in the different versions of me and get creative with who I decide to stand in now. Existential tragedy of the new moon period. Oh my God, let's not even. And lastly, like I said, there may be a call back to isolation to refine the bigger picture and to make sure that you are basing that bigger picture in something that feeds and nourishes collective and community rather than just yourself. So with that being said, that is Mars and Aquarius. We're going to be feeling this energy all throughout April as well. So like, bask in it. Saturn is also going to, like I said, account for like, if you want something larger than yourself, how are you showing up and pouring into it in a way that's intentional and consistent? So it's going to call for some action, but sometimes that action looks like isolation. Sometimes the action that you need to take is stepping away and having more honest conversations with yourself. So hope that makes sense. To any fellow natal Aquarius who are having a Mars return, we're in it together. And I'm sending you guys all my love. I'll be back for the full moon update, which is going to be really exciting. If you ever want to work one-on-one, I'm always available. Love you guys. That's it. Bye.